Hope I'm audible to all of you. It is a high sense of honor and privilege for me to be given an opportunity to contribute to this important discussion on this important occasion. Honorable Vice Chancellor and all my esteemed colleagues, before I engage with this assigned topic, that is ODL and IGNOU and social inclusion, I would like to wish all of you a truly great Teachers' Day. And since we are able to reach out to every other student and everyone in the country, we are visible to everyone through Gyan Dhara and Gyan Darshan. I would like to wish all the wonderful people at the regional center, thousands and thousands of our counselors, and millions of our students, which include young and old, working women, housewives, super achievers, and first generation learners, our transgender students, and everyone else. A happy Teachers' Day to you. A very important discourse has already been initiated. The way IGNOU has contributed to the idea of learning in this COVID pandemic. I thought that, the way I was assigned a topic as far as social inclusion is concerned, I thought I'll share my sense of ideas with you. If I look at my topic, I think that IGNOU is a way much more than an ordinary university. IGNOU is the most glorious and sacred experiment in the way of achieving educational democracy, social inclusion, and ensuring the most qualitative education in a least expensive manner. Exams and evaluation quality is at par with the best in the field, and it follows a time-tested model, and it has never stopped to embrace the modern ways and technology to adapt to the changing times. I would also like to share this very fundamental feeling in my heart, that is, there is a huge sense of similarity between the idea of India and the idea of ODL and IGNOU. Just like the idea of India is rooted in democracy, unity in diversity, a world of knowledge and peace, antodaya, care for the last man. I think ODL and IGNOU also is governed by the same values and the philosophy. It is even more remarkable to remember that on Teachers' Day, how IGNOU has actively taken up the task of achieving educational democracy from 1985 onwards, and so effectively achieved that with this unflinching grit and determination. I'm very satisfied to see that now every person in our country can make a valid claim for higher education in our country, and smooth gateway for courses like B.Ed, MBA, BCA, MCA, and PG courses in all major disciplines are open for everyone. It is hugely gratifying to see that every boy and girl from any social economical background can become a big time officer, IAS officer through ODL, and can become a part of the policy making process. And the differences of haves and have-nots have been diminished to a great extent. I think by removing these great barriers to education, it is good to remember on this day that ODL and IGNOU has opened the possibilities of social justice and inclusion in higher education in terms of access, relevance, flexibility, lifelong learning, opportunities, and democratization of knowledge. When I look at pedagogic model, the way individualized, inexpensive, qualitative education are the prime features. However, once we look at the macro picture, maximizing the realization of these possibilities is still an area of concern. Now, I think we can say that with great pride and satisfaction that ODL in general and IGNOU in particular has opened up educational ways and enabled the ways of learners in such a way that quality and inexpensive education is available to all our citizens. If you look at the macro view of the situation on this important occasion, there has been a massive and sometimes staggering growth in the higher education participation in the last 30 years across the globe, which includes the most developing nations also. The rise of higher and distance education is a remarkable phenomenon, as it emerged as a ray of hope and a viable alternative. Despite the encouraging signs in terms of numbers, demographic imbalances in the people continue to raise serious questions on the equitable access to women and other socially marginalized groups. I feel that Indian nation is being looked at as the fastest growing market. However, society suffers from issues of inequality in terms of education, employment, and income-based factors. Also on caste and ethnicity, compensatory and positive discrimination policies, reserve number of seats in institutions of higher education, jobs. These are the provisions. Like, despite these, the social and academic outcomes of the higher education, particularly distance education, is looked at with the suspicion. ODL and distance education, IGNOU in particular, which is a healthy mix of face-to-face teaching, blended mode learning, ICT-enabled teaching, and fully online teaching, appears to be the only effective solution in a context like ours. Professor Uma Kanjilal just talked in greater detail about that. I am trying to emphasize that the concept of social inclusion is complex as well as dynamic, because varied conceptualizations proffered by various scholars reflect ideological orientations and beliefs. Definitions and descriptions of social inclusion based on liberal and neoliberal ideology, for example, indicate that social justice should focus on the rights of the learners and students. I cannot miss mentioning here the person I have followed most, John Rawls, who proposed that each person possesses an inviolability founded on justice, and even the welfare of society as a whole cannot override. For this reason, justice denies that the loss of freedom for some is made right by a greater good shared by others. Similar ideas are shared by other liberal thinkers, including the neoliberals, who also recognize the rule of law, human rights, and welfare safety nets in fostering social justice. However, they insist on free market ethos of quality of opportunity and promotion of philanthropy and charity. In this regard, social inclusion is observed in just procedures and protects the individuals and individual property rights. In this context, market economy, some neoliberals assert that what are the important areas in terms of processes of making choices in the marketplace. I am basically arguing for social inclusion. Justice in education, therefore, should be based on fair procedures for access and participation. The socialists, on the other hand, insist that social justice has to be observed in fair distribution of income and property, as well as the control of production process. In this view, some of the individual rights may be sacrificed for the benefit of many. In this regard, collective responsibility and a fair and equitable outcomes are the most important than equal procedures. I'm saying that social justice in education, therefore, should be based on equitable chances to participate and benefit from higher education. If we look at how we can assess the attributes of social inclusion in higher education, equitable opportunities for access and participation in higher education, equity in ownership and control of the learning process, equitable outcomes from participation in higher education programs and activities, equitable opportunities for different categories of learners, faculty and institutions to participate in acquisition and creation, development and application of knowledge. My dear friends, I understand that social inclusion could not have taken place without breaking the economic barriers of social and economically marginalized students. And for example, IGNOU's fee exemption provisions have proved to be very effective in this. And we would like to acknowledge the positive vision in this sense, positive leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor in this sense. And like with the achievements and accomplishment on our side, we need to prepare for a more formidable way forward. We need to look at that besides our ways, besides what we have achieved, we need to walk more distance in terms of we need to come together to chalk out and execute an effective framework for the pre-admission counseling of our students at a critical time, so that they may be counseled about for not just a degree, but an appropriate combination of courses for a fuller justice to their potential and dreams. I also feel that we need to evolve a robust remedial coaching plan in which we are constantly linked to our learners and ensure that no one is left behind in the age of e-learning. We need to ensure that when we are talking about Moodle and we are talking about all other infrastructure facilities, the adequate infrastructure is available to our students in the most distant regions. We also need to make sure that post-completion placement assistance and support is worked out for our learners. In times of startups and stand-ups, our university has come a long way with some matching initiatives. We need to encourage more and more of these for our learners. I think I would stop here with a request that if we continue to find ways and solutions like this in such harmony and togetherness, we'll achieve the best possible solutions. And the kind of team that we have, I think we are in the right direction, and we will achieve the idea and the spirit of Teachers' Day with this sense of heightened commitment and dedication. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Parmod sir, for speaking such a valuable thing. I think as far as the point is concerned, you have talked about the totality, and totality is something which should not be 99.9%, it should be always 100%. When we go into a market to buy a picture, and if there could be a very minute hole of, say, very small size, say 1 mm size, whether we buy that picture, I think no, because we take the picture only when it could be 100%. Because so जब हम घड़ा खरीदते हैं बाजार से और हम देखते हैं कि उसमें अगर एक छोटा सा भी होल रहता है तो हमारे लिए बेकार होता है. तो totality, is playing a very important role. Either it could be, talking about the technology or talking about, the inclusion. Everywhere this is going to play a very important role. And when you're talking about the technological implementation, it should be in 100% mode, and it should be, reach to the unreached, and apply where there is no privilege of, using the internet or the the latest trends. So definitely your session is going to add a lot of valuable things, and this is going to be fruitful for us. And we have various speakers who were